Can we get started already?
Sure. We've been through hell before. It's nothing new for us.
Yeah, just like old times. The good old FBC.
Parker Luciani is one of the most loyal and trustworthy allies that Jill Valentine will come to know during the events of the game Resident Evil Revelations. A former FBC operative turned BSAA agent, Parker was one of the few who were at ground zero for the Terragrigia Panic in 2004. What he saw during that time and his feelings toward his supervisor's mismanagement of the situation would lead to his eventual agency swap. A switch that will wind up seeing him once again in the thick of another Veltro scandal just 1 year later.
Damn terrorists. We killed these bastards already.
It looks like you missed a few. And they're on this ship.
And now they want to use the virus to stage another attack.
The story of Parker Luciani as we know it begins with his employment at the Federal Bioterrorism Commission in 2004. At the behest of the FBC's head, Morgan Lansdale, Parker and a contingent of forces would be brought into the city of Terragrigia after a terrorist group known as Veltro had released an unknown virus into its populace. The city would quickly descend into absolute chaos, as the virus, in addition to unleashed hunters, would wreak havoc on the citizens. Parker would spend the bulk of his efforts attempting to aid the situation, pulling out what civilians he could find, but in the end, the pressure applied by the copious BOWs would force the FBC to cede the city. Lansdale would make the final call, and after pulling on his connections, would get the go-ahead to turn the city's own solar satellite, the Regia Solis, against it. Parker and a small group of surviving allies, including his former partner Jessica Shirawat, and a rookie he'd assisted named Raymond Vester, would escape the city just in time to see it absolutely engulfed by a chain reaction caused by the devastating solar downpour. To Parker, the mission had been an absolute catastrophe. He felt that there was more that could have been done before such drastic measures were taken, felt that Lansdale had played his heavy hand too early in an attempt to escape the negative press of the fiasco, any evidence of his questionable leadership during the panic being vaporized along with the rest of the city. The only solace that he could find for these ails coming at the bottom of a bottle. Fortunately, he would manage to distance himself from the FBC in the wake of the disaster, finding himself signing up with the BSAA, believing that the organization would be a better fit. Not all too long after the swap, he would find himself paired up with Jill Valentine, the duo being called to the beaches just beyond the still smoldering ashes of the burnt Aquapolis. Strange BOWs had been washing ashore lately, but as they begin to investigate, an even more pressing matter would be brought to their attention.
Jill, Parker, you two are still on the case.
What happened?
We lost contact with Chris and Jessica.
Chris Redfield and Parker's former partner, Jessica Shirawat, had gone missing in the Mediterranean. With no time to lose, he and Jill would be sent in to investigate their last known coordinates, finding a seemingly abandoned vessel known as the Queen Zenobia. While aboard, Parker's past would rear its ugly head, as the terrorist organization that had caused the events in Terragrigia were seemingly alive and well on this ship. With Jill in tow, he would search every floor, attempting to uncover the mysteries he'd thought were lost in the city. And in the end, he would find them. As it turned out, his distaste for Lansdale was far more deserved than he'd even imagined. Thanks to Raymond Vester, the rookie he'd helped in Terragrigia, Parker would learn of the FBC head's involvement in the terror attacks on the floating city. In secret, Lansdale had been working with Veltro to create this virus and even provided these ships from which to propagate the attack. However, this information would come at a cost, as just as he would regroup with his former partner, she would betray him. While Raymond was a mole for the BSAA, Jessica was a mole for the FBC. An interorganizational scuffle that will wind up with Parker being shot and Jessica's escape. Parker would urge Raymond to rush after her, leaving him painfully wounded on a ship that would soon be headed to the bottom of the ocean. Despite this agony, however, he would push through and eventually make it to the lower floors, regrouping with Jill. But yet more bad luck would see another separation of the duo. Despite the dire straits that seemed to meet him at every turn, though, somehow he would find Raymond, the shoulder he'd lent the rookie back in Terragrigia, now coming full circle to lead him out of the jaws of certain death.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Parker. Now it's my turn to save you. Come on, we're getting out of here.
Parker would survive his harrowing adventure aboard the Queen Zenobia, found by a rescue team alone, adrift along the shores of the Republic of Malta in the Mediterranean Sea. And while it would take him a solid month to recover from the abuse he'd suffered, once he had, he would return to his position at the BSAA, ever eager to lend a helping hand to those in need. Yet, it wouldn't be for nearly a decade before he'd be called back into the dangerous fray. While investigating reports of a potential biohazard outbreak in South America, Claire Redfield would get into contact with her brother Chris, after discovering a possible link between Sonido de Tortuga Island and Oswell Spencer. Unfortunately for her, however, Chris was already tied up on another mission and would instead offer the support of another proven veteran, Parker Luciani. Parker and Claire would arrive on the island in search of a fellow operative for TerraSave named Inez Diaco, finding a good deal of trouble on their arrival. A BOW with arms affixed to propellers would attack the group and slaughter nearly everyone, aside from the newly arrived duo and a few other civilians. Seeing only one way to get the rest of the group to safety, Parker would resign himself to attack the beast head-on, quickly becoming overwhelmed by its immense strength and staggering agility. Luckily, before it would manage to strike a critical blow, another BOW would come to his aid, attacking the creature as Parker would fall unconscious from blood loss, later coming to the sound of gunshots and a radio transceiver. He would direct reinforcements to the beach, being picked up along the way, thus marking another mission from which he would barely survive. Parker Luciani is one of the most loyal allies that can be found aboard the destitute Queen Zenobia. A man whose sense of justice is absolute, even when he may not have the full scope of facts from which to work with. Whether in the desolate waters of the Mediterranean Sea or the lush jungles of South America, Parker is a man who can be counted on to do the right thing, even when it could spell his end. And while some may abuse his selfless nature, it's a quality that has made more than a lasting impression on his peers.
Hey, I get it. You want justice served. No more heroics. End up getting the whole unit killed. Yeah. Welcome to the real world.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that should ease the pain.